Perfect. So, hello and welcome to the Ospreys Eyrie podcast, the podcast who is still waiting on their invite to the non-executive directory board for the WIU. Joining me this week is the busiest man in South Wales, the man who's taken over Wales Online and finally given us some representation. It is Iestyn. How are we, Iestyn?
Good, thanks. The Reece Henry analysis piece didn't quite come to the fore, but here we are.
And joining us, I told you we go big for the Scarlets week. It is the probably most famous fan of the Ospreys.
Hey,
Uh,
Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen's here.
all right, Michael Sheen, but I didn't see him in the Riverside with a beer before the Leicester
Yeah,
game
no,
last year.
he doesn't turn up much, does he? He doesn't come
It,
along. There's that one video of him in a jersey, and he thinks that counts.
it's the one and only Robbie, aka Squidge Rugby from the world's most famous rugby channel. It feels like.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and sorry for ruining your introduction.
No, you're okay. My introductions are always all over the place, shall we say?
There's also
How
that
are
lad
we?
that says, "Oh, sorry." There's also
Oh
that
no,
lad that says
how?
"Bosh" that they get on the social media now, who apparently is a big deal on TikTok.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Clearly, like the marketing department got given some money this year, and they decided to blow it all on TikTok cameos, which I'm
Oh,
not complaining about.
yeah, no. So I've befriended one of the Ospreys marketing team, Bethan, who is wonderful
Yeah,
and excellent and very good at a job. And she mentioned him to me as like, we think we can get him because apparently he likes the Ospreys. And I have no idea who he is. And for watching all of his videos of him going, Ospreys playing Sharks, bosh, I am none the wiser. So,
well, it upset Lee Jarvis, so that's fine by me.
that's the main
Um,
thing.
how are we? We live in a post Dragons world now, where dragons are our new glorious overlords. How are we? Have you had a good week, boys?
Yeah, well, I have from the writing aspects of things, but well, it just kind of felt like a gut feeling that it was always going to happen. Um,
Mm.
from a blast from the past from the 2016-17 season when the Ospreys were top of the league and they went to Newport in a game which was hands down a kick. Well, it was a kick fest. I'm pretty sure I had 109 kicks from hand that game. The Ospreys win 10-0 and Justin Tipuric combines with Ollie Cracknell to score a cracker of a try. And that was like my first game away as in
Mm.
the match. And I felt like walking out of that match, even though the Ospreys won, I felt like this is a tough place to go. And as I've done another couple of trips to Rodney Parade, I've realised it is a tough place to go. So I thought, oh, well, I can't make it over the weekend. So hopefully results will change. And of course, it hasn't. And but for I think full credit to the Dragons. Yeah, I thought they played well. They kind of exposed the Ospreys' defence in a little bit. I think from briefly looking at all the games throughout the season, I feel like the defender, either Max Nagy or Jack Walsh, normally shoots in quite late
Mm.
from full back into the defensive line. And I think they did expose a couple of grubber kicks, which gave them a bit of territory at times. Um, Even though I'm not the rugby expert, yeah, I really shouldn't. It might be a little bit out of my depth. But yeah, that's where I kind of thought about it from the kicking game. And then obviously once you get a red card and a yellow card,
Mm.
it's a little bit tougher then.
And
Yeah.
Robbie, how are we? How are you?
Yeah. No, good, good, good. Despite everything, despite rugby being awful and hateful, for 2 weeks in a row now. Yeah, no, I was actually, I missed I had like a few friends from uni doing like a reunion thing, and we went to watch one of my friends who plays in like the women's sixth division. Had a game of rugby that weekend, and so I watched that instead of the Ospreys, and avoided the score all weekend. Then watched it like late Sunday night, and boy, was that effort not worth it. Of avoiding my phone for like 2 straight days in order to just witness that in full. But yeah, as you say, like it was very reminiscent of. I think I'm slightly older, and I remember the back in the Jerry Collins and the Marty Holler days. the number of times you'd rock up with that full team at Rodney Parade and suddenly the Allied Brew All-Stars would tear you apart. It's just that Dragons game from an Ospreys perspective feels like the equivalent of the Fiji game for Wales, where it just feels like the sheer dread of like, oh, we're going to lose this. They will pick up their game or we're going to lose this and we shouldn't, just hangs over you and makes the entire experience pretty bittersweet. And it felt like, yeah, all of that coming back home once again.
So I text Jamie Phillips from the Dragons Lair and of Rap fame in the week in our group chat a picture of the 2015 All Blacks team, and I said I can't wait for the Dragons to turn up on Saturday, and he laughed me away. But then somehow Rodri Jones turned into a prime Joe Moody against us. But we'll come to. I had to watch. I had to watch it on my phone in the middle of Bognor Regis Rugby Club, where I'm living, and because it's the South Coast, they're all Quins fans. So they had the Quinn Saracens game on TV, on the big screen in front of me, which is depressing enough. And then on my phone, I was just watching red cards and Luke Morgan being thick. So yeah, it was depressing, but we move on. We will talk about the game in more depth. Let's talk some news first, though. Everyone is injured. Toby Booth in his press conference today gave some more insight on the injury front. So Hugh Sutton looks to be out semi-long term with a knee injury. Don Morris is out with an upper ankle injury. Tom Florence did have it looks like an ACL reconstruction back in the summer, so he's probably long term as well. It was revealed that James Ratty is out for 6 to 8 weeks with shoulder damage, as well as Justin Tipuric with his thumb, who will have surgery next week, also out for 6 to 8 weeks. Will Griffiths out as well. The Toby Frick is apparently in a moon boot. And this one is absolutely a rumour. According to the Ospreys fan forum, Jack Morgan is a doubt for the weekend.
Good.
Just in case, you know. But yeah, everyone is injured. What do we make of that?
There'd been a big vibe, I think, as you're hearing all of this of, well, at least we've still got Jack Morgan, because that went all right for Wales in the World Cup. Just having no one else but Jack Morgan. A little bit damn bigger, but, you know, we can try and wind the clock back. Suddenly it gets to the point where you're looking at struggles to put together a team, because I think Will Hickey's injured as well. Or at least he seemed like he's always injured since he arrived.
Yeah, he's injured.
Yeah. So suddenly you're looking at the back row. You've got Morgan Morris, obviously, ever present at 8. Harry Deeves can slot in at 7 if you're missing Jack Morgan. And I know we're going to look at the team later on, but suddenly you're looking at, you know, maybe you can move a lock up, or you bring in, I don't know, Morgan Morse is a big ask to bring him in and, you know, play a local derby, having played, about 15 minutes of professional rugby. Suddenly you're wondering if you can field a team, or if you're doing like an anti-Springbok and you can put like 6 scrum halves on the bench in kind of just like protest, and see if you can cause Razzie to just turn up in anger so you can field him on the flank. I don't know. Like it's starting to get a bit worrying. It's the thing Toby said in that press conference, that you can cope with an injury or two, but once they're in the same position, it starts to stack up with how thin the squad is and, you know, how small the budgets are at the minute. It starts to get quite worrying once you look at the back row position in particular, where, you know, to use this phrase, it's getting quite thin.
Yes, then are we staring down the barrel of a Dewi Lake at 8?
Ooh.
Yeah, so that could be an option if. We've got 2 hookers spare, haven't we? So if you wanted to chuck someone like Dewi Lake in the back row, just to purely win turnover ball and annoy people in the breakdown, then, well, feel free. I don't think many of us are going to complain. Obviously, you mentioned Morgan Morse there. As someone that went to the same school as him and briefly played rugby with him. It wasn't very long, but I've briefly played rugby with him. That's one for my CV. If someone had told him his first URC start would be a home game against the Scarlets, he would love it. I am absolutely love it. If there's anyone that probably wants wants his first start to be a derby is probably him, even though he might be a little bit quiet. Someone that knows him quite well. I think if someone went up to him and said, "You're starting against the Scarlets," I think he would probably relish it, despite the lack of minutes he's had, and he's been in quite good nick in the Welsh Prem as well. So he scored last week in the same game which Tom Haberfield scored a try in. So
yes,
you balance that up. I think starting in the back row against the Scarlets seems rather fair.
Well, I am very worried about that back row now because it's giving Rhys Davies at 6 vibes, which worked great against Leicester, but then was a bit rubbish everywhere else. It's a really tough one because we don't really know the length of these injuries, and 6 has been a bit of a problem position for us. And then Will Griffiths sort of turned up out of nowhere, and we were like, "Yes, this is brilliant." And then Will Griffiths got injured, so we said we'll go sign Jack Morgan and then play him and Tipperick as a dual 7. And now Tipperick's injured, and we might not have Morgan again. Purely speculation. I hope he's all right. It does look a bit thin in the ground because the one person you can't take out that back row is Morgan Morris at 8.
Yeah.
But it's just you can't do it. Realistically, we know Harry Deeves is going to be in the starting lineup. It's just whether it's at 6 or 7. And then, for me, I want Deeves at 7 as proper out and out, go and tackle everything, be a menace at the breakdown. And then we want a big bastard at 6. You want a Will Griffith 6, but we don't have that. You're not going to put an undercooked Jack Regan in there. You've got
Fender can play 6 supposedly.
Tristan Davis is another option.
But... Yeah,
he's played 6, but again undercooked. I'd be a little. Well, again, we'll go over this, but I'd be a lot happier if he played Fender and Beard, who are pretty much the same person. A lot, and then a Rhys Davies, Deeves, Morgan Morris back row. Other than that, I think we're fine. We've got 8 million scrum halves, including the world's most handsome man in Ruan Kruger. He's so.
I didn't realize Thomas Appleton.
Well, other than that, there is no. Surprisingly, we haven't tried to burn anything down this week. There's no Ospreys news. There was varying stuff floating around fan forums, but they're fan forums for a reason. As Robbie, I know you're a big frequenter of that fan forum.
I pop up every now and again. I joined during the period where it looked like we were going to merge with Ealing because I was having sleepless nights and wanting any reassurance.
I did the same.
Yeah, so I started turning up, and I turned up every now and again, basically just to see, like, have we signed a hooker or anything? And you know what? Normally not the case. Yeah, what a fun place. What a fun place it is.
Very positive people are not. Let's move into looking at Mordor away. Firstly, freak anomaly or symptom of something larger. Yes, Din. What are we thinking?
Well, the only ironic thing I found out of it was the opening 5 minutes when the Ospreys kind of controlled things, even though they weren't going much in attack. Then they get a scrum, get the ball out somehow. I don't really know how that ball flew out, but it did. One phase later, then Ruben Morgan-Williams produces a kick for Prothero, and you try, and then Prothero scores, and you're thinking, well, that's a good start. That will do. And then that was it, in a way. And I think some people on social media might have been a little bit critical about the kicking game. And ironically, one of the good examples of a good kick led to a red card. Because because that's a really good box kick by Ruben Morgan-Williams.
Yeah.
Probably close on the money. And then obviously Prothero has kind of mistimed his chase and has gone in far too quickly and has walloped Will Reid in the head. And then the second half, then they just, in fairness, the Ospreys did defend quite well from about half time to about an hour, and then the yellow card comes, and then you're thinking, oof, it's tough to get back from there.
Yeah, I think, as you say, the Prothero red card is the stupidest tackle attempt I've seen in some time. And Sam Cane got sent off in a World Cup final for pointlessly shouldering Jesse Creel in the head a few weeks ago. It's just, if you're going into a tackle like that, the best case scenario really is you're getting a yellow. It's just really, really stupid. And, he should have known the risks. It was ridiculous. And I think often normally there's more to a game, especially with how good teams are at playing with 14 now, than just a card. But I think that card completely threw the Ospreys both momentum off and affected the game plan massively. In terms of the way they played this season, it was something that, like, when I was looking at last season, and you felt like they were close the entire way, but something was missing the entire way through last season. And hence why, there's a couple of big games in the Montpellier and Leicester and the Scarlets over Boxing Day. But that was sort of it. It was a handful of games and they couldn't quite get the consistency together and whatever. And he felt like something was missing. And like instinctively, I was thinking it was a kicking game. And then you saw this season when Mark Jones came in, and I think against the Sharks and against Glasgow for most of the game, it's just that like defense that the attack can feed off and that they can really put pressure on with the defense. And I think that has changed them completely. And the last 2 weeks have been rough, but like I look at the last few weeks and I see more signs of a team who could kick on and win something than perhaps the last couple of years, where you were having maybe closer results, or maybe winning a couple of these games, but they felt more flukish. Whereas you saw like last week against Glasgow, they were completely dominant for that first half, just didn't get enough points on the board. Derry Lake drops the ball pretty much over the try line, and you have the Prothero chance as well, which doesn't bounce in the right direction. Those two sit up, or if they've got, they defend one of the mauls better, suddenly that's a great win. Suddenly you're even looking for a bonus point later on. Suddenly it's a very different game. And the season feels very different. And in this game, I think a lot of it is in, as I said, if you're looking to use that defense to kind of feed off and create errors and create chances to pressure and, put the other team on the back foot. Hence, as you said, you mentioned, how much the Ospreys have been kicking and how much they kicked in that game. Suddenly, when you're trying to play that kind of strategy and you don't have a winger to chase, it kind of stops working. You saw Jack Walsh chasing a few kicks, and he just, he did a perfectly okay job, but it's not his area, and he wasn't able to put the kind of required level of pressure on for that, like basically a full hour of the game. And then you lose Luke Morgan as well, and that becomes even more difficult. And then you throw in the fact that, like, because this defense is so aggressive, it's using the wingers a lot to kind of almost mop up mistakes. And if someone else makes an error, like, I know a lot of people are very, especially on that fan forum, as you mentioned, are very critical of Luke Morgan's defense. But the thing he will always give you is effort. Like, that guy, if he makes an error, works really hard to get back and make up for it and make cover tackles. And, someone else makes an error as well. And so he fits into that system where, like, because it's so aggressive up the main line, then the winger kind of like almost waits back in case there's an error somewhere else and he can sweep in and, pick it up, or, if they get wide, can then, adjust. Suddenly, when you've lost one of your wingers, you saw the Ospreys defense become far more passive and having to slide a bit rather than being so aggressive. When they lost both wingers, it was completely gone. And North had to cover both wings at once whilst also being 13, and it just became a bit of a nightmare. Hence, the Rio Dyer try, where that was basically impossible to defend. Like, by the time Morgan's off the field as well, like, that is, I felt it. I kind of said it to myself at the time, but like, that was an unwinnable position. Once you're missing both your wingers, you're, what were they, 8 points down. I think it's a really weird game because it kind of, if it was like an autumn international or something where it mattered, but like you would forget it in a year's time, I would have felt like this was, like you can see the building blocks coming together, but there were odd problems that were very costly. The problem is that in order to make the playoffs, in order to kind of, go somewhere, you kind of need to win about 10 games, basically, in past seasons of the URC. The only team to win 10 games and not make it was us the season before last. But basically, if you win 10 games, you're good as in, especially picking a few bonus points, which we were in the first few weeks at least. You worry with Glasgow as a home game gone, and now the Dragons here, those chances to win those games are starting to slip away, with 2 games in South Africa and a game in Leinster coming up of the remaining matches, which that becomes the worry, is like, are we learning these we keep having to learn these lessons over and over again, because we keep having to change the team and things, players keep disappearing and budget cuts keep coming in, and we keep having to change fly half every season and a half, and all of this. But the other thing is, there's 13 games left the season. They've won 2 games. Are they going to win 8 of those 13, with 3 of them being borderline unwinnable games in, Leinster and South Africa? I don't know. It's a weird one. Sorry, I've just kind of pontificated and gone off a lot there.
No, you're absolutely right. And going back to the Dragons thing, they clearly went in with a game plan. The first 5 minutes, some can argue it was a freak. Dragons were defending stupidly narrow. Ruben puts in a lovely kick, and again, having played against Ruben at age grade, he done them kicks for years. Prothero gets on the end of that. You're thinking, right, settle down, we score the points. What was frustrating for me, and I think it was a theme throughout the game, we just failed to adapt. And I'll use the Nicky in the scrum as an example, and I'll come on to the scrum in a minute. Nicky has gone for 2 years now as being arguably the most dominant scrummager in definitely Welsh rugby, but also in rugby as well.
Yeah.
And he was illegal against Lloyd Fairbrother. He was clearly not scrummaging straight, going in. What was worrying is that he failed to adapt. And that was what we did all game. We failed to adapt to Dragons around breakdown, like you said, Dragons defence and how they use their wingers. And then the red card happened. Right. Yeah, by all means, tighten up the game. Go to the air with Ruben, have Luke Morgan chase. You can't account for a Luke Morgan brain fart, and trying to assassinate Rio Dyer. So that was the theme for me. And then, you come back to that word effort then. Toby Booth got a bit of flack in his post-game interview by saying, I can't fault the boys' effort. What else is he supposed to say? And yeah, you're right, the effort was there. The boys made, they were defending with 13 men, 14 men. And it was, if you looking at the stats, right? I'll go off the rugby pass stats because that's where I get it. When we had 67% scrum win percentage. Can't remember the last time I saw an Ospreys team dipped under 80. Right? I think that's a freak anomaly. I don't think we'll be refed like that again, and I don't think Nicky will make the same mistakes again. Line-out win of 79% again. Dewi Lake just had probably his worst line-out performance in a while. He was 80 odd percent. He had 88%, or 90, maybe 91% against Glasgow, which is where you're around you want to be. We look at us in attack then. We made 187 post-contact meters compared to Dragons 305, which is what you expect, I think, for having to defend for large periods of the game.
Yeah.
So I think that, again, exemplifies the effort. And then I thought the defensive stats were going to be worse than they were. So bearing in mind, we made 91% of our tackles against Glasgow. It might be 95, with missing 7 in total. We missed 26 in this game, but with the caveat of you're defending with 14 and you're defending with 13. So that comes about an 82% of 119 tackles, which I thought was quite good, considering the line breaks for Dragons, considering they had fresher legs. Bradley Roberts was amazing. You bring on Elliot D. Ollie Griffiths had his best game for Dragons in a good while. So again, the effort is there. And if I look back over the last 2 seasons, right, that season we won 10 games, didn't make the playoffs. Why is that? Because we didn't get bonus points, because we were winning 12-9 against Munster or 18-6 against Ulster. Okay, the next season, we were picking up some bonus points, but we weren't consistent enough. We go to this season, we've been relatively consistent performance-wise. We've been picking up some bonus points. We've been winning some games, and then we lose some games. So you can clearly see the progress has been made. And I had this rant on the Rap Pod on Monday. If you think Toby Booth should be sacked, you need to give your head a wobble. Right?
Absolutely.
We were in the doldrums. We lost the Southern Kings at home with Alan Wynne-Jones and Justin Tipuric on the bench. Right? We had won 2 games all season. With one of them games we definitely shouldn't have won. Toby Booth, Mike Ruddock have come in. The academy is back up to a grade A standard now, producing like some Morgan Morse, Tom Florence, blah blah blah. You could then look at the strength of the partnership with the university. I would like to remind people, Scarlets had the partnership with Swansea University first. They just
Mm.
never have properly used it. They've got that university partnership. They've identified non-Welsh qualified talents, right? Look at Ethan Roots, gone
Yeah.
on to Exeter in the Premiership. Ethan Roots would have happily stayed if we could have given him the money.
Mm.
Okay, we just couldn't offer it. We just couldn't compete with what was being offered. Toby Booth has then turned normal players into internationals, which is his creed. Okay, he did it in London Irish, he's done it in Bath, he's done it wherever he's got. Okay, no one 4 years ago thought Sam Parry was going to be a Welsh international. Sam Parry is a
Mm.
Welsh international. Okay, if you think Toby Booth needs to go on the chopping block because all of a sudden you've got Mark Jones in defensive coach, that is just wrong. It's plain wrong, and you're going to put us backwards.
Yeah. You look at what is Toby Booth's job at the end of the day, right? He is head coach, which is mostly really man management and culture management and bits of selection and so on, and overall kind of just like making the big decisions in the moments, right? Those are the fronts on which the Ospreys have been unquestionably extremely good over the last few years. You look at the games where they performed best, including, even Glasgow last week, where obviously they lost, but they were brilliant for at least the first half. So much of that is them fighting for each other and having this real team spirit that I don't think was ever there before. You go back, it wasn't there during the kind of the Jerry Collins, Shane Williams, Tommy Bowe era. It's he's built and kind of built out a real identity to this team that I think is incredibly distinctive. And I love to watch and, kind of really feel a part of for, being a fan and supporter. And ultimately, those are the things that come down to him. The odd things that are going wrong are little bits of the attack perhaps not landing. And, you look at Brock James leaving and in comes Richard Fussell, who I think, by all accounts, by, the looks of things, really good skills coach, perhaps promoted to be an attack coach before he was ready. And we saw bits of that, at points. Bringing in Mark Jones has been fantastic in terms of giving them something else, like a core that isn't just the scrum. If they've got the scrum, they've got the line out, they've got that kind of maul set piece, but they've also got a defense that can feed an attack. You then are more capable of kind of having a perhaps slightly looser attack that isn't as cutting edge, isn't the kind of Leinster incredibly crisp, or, All Blacks Ireland approach. Pardon me. I think that just on the fronts where it is Booth's responsibility, they're the areas where the Ospreys are excelling time after time. As you said, like his whole MO when he was at London Irish and at Bath was developing young players and bringing people through. And to a man, you look at like the most promising players, the most exciting players for Wales in the last 5 years have all been players that were youngsters that were kind of like 18, 19 when he brought them in, had barely played URC rugby, barely played professional rugby, and he has built them into world-class players. Dewi Lake, Jack Morgan, and then, like Tipuric's had some of his best form of his entire career has been the last few years for the Ospreys, and he hasn't perhaps been the same for Wales, but a lot of that you think you can put down to, there's Kieran Williams. You can kind of go players like Keelan Giles and Ruben Morgan-Williams, who perhaps people had a period of thinking weren't going to happen, of like a lot of early promise that then you worried would peter out, have then picked up and become really fantastic players at this level. It's just like continuing to happen, continuing to develop these players. And then you look at the next generation, the James Fenders, the Reece Henrys, of the world. Yeah, I don't know. I just have an awful lot of belief and trust in him across the board. And I want him to stay for the next 15, 20 years. And you can maybe change some of the assistants alongside. But yeah.
You guys say he's like not to use their club, but like the Rob Baxter type character where he knows the club inside out. Yes, then let's move on to Scarlets then, because I think there's no point dwelling on that Dragons game. I think after the emotion of that one, because it stung for me as well. And I'm not going to bring up the Dan Bow situation and Ben Whitehouse because again, that's been done to death. If you want to hear my thoughts on that, listen to the Rat Pod. Dan Bear was wrong in what he did. I think he should face some punishment. It sets a precedent. Anyway, Scarlets at home, probably the most interesting Welsh derby for the last couple of years because both teams are probably not in the place where they want to be, but probably where they deserve is the best way I'll put it. Yestin, where for you is the game going to be won and lost?
The obvious one is up front. I think if the Ospreys can find some form up front, which hopefully with another week of games, the players like Nicky Smith, like Dewi Lake, like Adam Beard, like whoever's going to be in the back row. Now there's so many injuries. If they've got another week with as a collective, as a playing group. So if they can, they can get themselves firing, that set piece battle is going to be quite big. The battle at hooker between Dewi Lake and probably Ryan Elias is going to be quite big. That feels like a number one shootout for the Wales job, and you probably a worry might be the battle at 9. Okay, Ruben Morgan-Williams had a good start to this season, but maybe someone to the caliber of someone that's played so well, like Gareth Davies, like we've seen during the World Cup, that could be something interesting. That'll be a good test to see where Morgan-Williams is. I was going to say Sam Costello, but then he's injured. So Jack Walsh against Johan Lloyd, that's going to be another exciting battle. 2 young 10s going at it. A little bit like last week in a way when you had Walsh and Will Reid. I think centres is probably going to be quite big as well. It depends what the Scarlets select with. Because like Eddie James and Joe Roberts, well, those two look really good down there. And it's a big test. If Kieran Williams, Toby Ruth has said that Kieran Williams is back fit, which is huge. I cannot stress enough how big that is. So the selection of 13 is even bigger. Do you go for someone like George North, who might bring maybe a bit more in attack compared to someone like Owen Watkin, who I'm a big fan of? And you have a little bit more solid defensively in a way. Nothing against George, but Watkins probably the better defender of the two. While I think maybe with ball in hand, well, except for the build up to the Morgan Williams try against Glasgow, where Watkin plays a relatively simple pass but takes out 2 Glasgow players. Maybe North's probably better in terms of the handling and creating chances in attack.
The other thing is, have we heard anything if Provo is being cited or banned? Because I don't think I've heard anything, but that's possible.
No,
that could happen.
Is, but obviously it's a red card, so it'll be an automatic. At least a 1-game ban. I predicted on Monday it'll probably be a 3 to 4 game ban with brought down by a clean disciplinary record and maybe tackle intervention. So you're probably looking at 2 to 3 weeks. Nothing's come out that I could find, but you know that Brother is going to be out. Then you're definitely looking at Daniel Kasende starting,
or moving North onto the wing is the other option,
or moving North onto the wing, which I think is what will happen. I think they'll move North out onto the wing with Kasende on the other one, and then have Keith and Owen Watkin 12 and 13, which makes the most natural sense, seeing as we don't really know the status of Yestin Hopkins. You Nagy's going to start at fullback unless he didn't pick up an injury. Again, he played well last week in having to deal with a lot in that backfield. Robbie, where are we still favourites, or can you count anyone as favourites in this game?
I mean, I think the Ospreys probably being at home and considering the Scarlets are 130 odd points down on points difference this season. And you said they're both where they should be in the table. The Scarlets should be bottom. They've shipped 131 points.
Yeah.
Come on.
They are.
Come on. Being second bottom, bullshit. But yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to, can the Ospreys stay consistent? You look at that other derby a few weeks ago between the Scarlets and the Blues, as I will continue to call them, and will never be corrected. But the Scarlets looked rotten in that for the first half. They looked pretty ropey. Then they scored one lucky try and suddenly sprung back into life and took complete control of the game. And suddenly Cardiff just sort of fell apart and let them.
That's
And
the Cardiff way.
yeah. Oh yeah, they've
That
got
is
very good
falling
at that
apart.
this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, of looking all right, then just nothing quite clicking. And I think it'd be very Ospreys, especially Ospreys this season, to look really good and look much the better team, and then let in a soft try to, the likes of Gareth Davis, who has been playing phenomenally well and picked it right back up, as obviously player of the match in that game when he came back for the Scarlets against the Blues. And that is the worry, I think. I think I expect the Ospreys to be the better team on Sunday, but I don't necessarily expect them to win it. And I think that's part of the worry. It's consistency and just managing to not let in a soft try or an easy, moment, just letting it up for like 20 seconds at a time. And, what is otherwise like maybe like a 74-minute performance out of 18, just like letting the foot off the gas a couple of times too often and letting the Scots back in the game, because they are the sort of team that thrives on little moments they can take confidence from and have been, under Dwayne Peel.
Yeah, I think
Go on, yes.
a little bit of that last season, I thought.
Mm.
The derby on Boxing Day in Swansea, because the Ospreys took control in the first half, obviously the Scarlets did have a red card, but they scored. I want to say Callum Foley scored, and then at the start of the second half, the Ospreys were on counter attack. Then McNichol intercepts it and runs in. And you're thinking it's game on.
Mm.
And if that were to happen again, it could be, and if it's 15 against 15, and hopefully there's no cards on the weekend, unless someone shoots someone's head off. But yeah, if it's a little bit tighter, that could favour the Scarlets. I can kind of see in Robbie's ways, the Ospreys could easily be the better side, but we all know they can easily slip up and let in a couple of really easy tries and somehow lose the game, even though they've been the better side for about 77 minutes. But it could, if the Ospreys can just keep that control, that's so important. Even kick in for territory, or just send one up in the air if needs be. If you're losing a little bit of momentum, they just need to make sure the control is there and they don't let easy ins. And I'm sure Toby Booth is all over that this week in training. I'll be stunned if he isn't. And there's going to be some new players in there because of injury, but sure they can all just smash their heads together and say, right, this is a game that you have to win.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if Duncan Jones had let them not be near a scrum machine this week. There had just been photos of Rodri Jones around like Tom Bota's locker saying, "This is what you lost to." Oh, and I think the performance you probably are looking to emulate is that 50-odd point win we had season before last at home, where Scarlets probably took control in that first half. Then you just get the ball rolling. You had scrum dominance, you have line-out dominance. That was probably where we were at the peak of our maul powers, at the peak of our scrum powers. And then you just keep that scoreboard pressure, because I think the Scarlets will just start to crumble. And you look at how low on confidence Kemsley Mathias looked in that Blues game, where I don't necessarily think he's an awful prop. I just think he doesn't paint a good picture for referees. Can you put pressure on whatever bargain bin tight head they bring? Is it going to be Harry O'Connor? Is it going to be Sam Wainwright? That's where you look at your second row. They've got no Lousy, so it's going to be Alex Craig and Jack Price, probably.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then their back row, they've got no, the world's greatest player, Tame Plumtree, is not available. The man who scored, according to Hugh Griffin, scores 8 million tries in 4 games.
Is Tane Plumtree real? Do we know this for a fact?
I think he's an NFT.
Yeah. I've seen him play a number of times, and I look at him and I'm like, you are AI generated. You just some bloke rocked up and was like, all right, lads, I'm Tane Plumtree, and I'm like 20 foot tall, quick, and played 4 games of Super Rugby, which you weren't watching because Sky doesn't have the rights anymore and doesn't broadcast it, whatever. And I made up when I Welsh qualified. I'm going to sign for. He just throws it down. Oh, the Scarlets. I'm Welsh apparently. I don't believe in him. I don't believe there's such a guy as Tane Plumtree. I look at him and I'm like, oh, right, we're into like regens in Rugby Challenge. Like, okay, this guy's just turned up. He's not. He's an actor. He's an actor
No.
playing a Scarlets player. I don't believe it.
Kane Plumtree was what everyone thought Tyler Aldrin was before they realized, oh, this guy's actually really good.
Yeah,
Because you
yeah,
just have this guy with a funny accent turn up and said, I'm going to play for the Ospreys. And then all of a sudden, he's now like the world's greatest Canadian import since maple syrup.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's probably what the vibe was like. But so they've got no Tane Plumtree because he's realized he plays for the Scarlets and injured himself. They've got no Costello, you
Mm.
know,
Charlie Titcomb
this is
time.
where, yeah, Charlie, Teddy Leatherbarrow, again, another made up person. No one is called Teddy Leatherbarrow. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, 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 no,
It,
no. I don't believe in him.
Scarlets fans have been hyping him up as the new Jack Morgan. Um, in my mind, Jack Morgan never played any rugby before joining the Ospreys. We just found him like a bargain bin in Aberavon somewhere.
Oh, I
Um,
swear, all his games for the Scarlets like a Mandela effect thing. He look, he never played for the Scarlets. It's just
no,
some people falsely remember this.
it's a rumor. I think it'll be a really. I think we have to get set piece parity. I'm a prop
Mm.
myself. If you don't have that at least scrum going forward, you're gonna struggle. My only worry, and I know you don't like ref chat, Robbie, is a referee on debut, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Welsh derby referee on debut could be disaster.
Mm.
Very quickly, we're going to do some squad predictions. Five
Okay.
minutes. Um, are we in agreement that Nicky starts at one?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's the
I could
vibe.
well see Gareth coming in because it turns out Gareth wasn't injured. It was a personal reason he was out. So Gareth is fit. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Nicky or Gareth start. Do we continue with Dewi at
Again, I think
two?
so. I think you keep Dewi Lake in. Um, yeah, again, I like the look of Lewis Lloyd.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan Lewis has been perfectly good, but yeah, I think you stick with Dewi Lake. Sam Parry's
Yeah.
obviously back as well, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Yeston, Tom Boater at three.
Yes. Yes, of course. You cannot do much worse than Tom Both, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
Locks, are we saying Adam Beard and Adam Beard's regen, James Fender?
Is
Um,
Reese Davis not fit?
well, I was going to say Reece Davis starts at six
Oh, of course.
because naturally there is no
Yeah.
one else to start at six.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'd forgotten the conversation we just had.
Yeah.
No, because you're right. It's either it becomes Morse or it becomes yeah. Yeah. So Reese Davis starts at six. So Fender comes in second row. Yeah.
Which again, I don't mind because it's three solid lineup options.
Mm.
Fender can call the line, as can Adam Beard. Reece Davis doesn't, but can. Um, so then 6, 7, 8, we go in the world's angriest man, Reece Davis, Harry Deeves, and Morgan Morris.
Yeah. Unless Jack Morgan's fit, in which
Unless
case,
Jack Morgan's fit. If Jack Morgan's fit, it'll be Deeves and Morgan starting. And then
yeah.
Reece Davis will
Yeah.
go into the role. But I'm only going off rumours. 9 and 10, I think Rubes and Walsh. Owen's a
Yeah.
week out, so he'll be back for the Benetton part one. And then we agreed that Kieran and Owen Watkin go into the centres.
Yeah, I'd go with Wat. I really like the way Owen Watkins playing at the minute. I like
Yeah,
him
I do as
being
well.
far more kind of solid. He's not taking so much on himself. He's just being a very willing kind of membrane for the team around him. He's leading the defense incredibly well, and I think he's working as a kind of distribution threat, kind of like just being very, engaging defenders, taking it in when needs be, but being far happier to kind of take a back seat almost and just run things very passively, which I think is really working for him. It's really kind of getting the best out of the players around him rather than him necessarily looking flash. But I'm really liking the way he's been playing this season.
He also looks like he lives with Mark Jones. Like that, you can
Yeah,
tell that that defensive captaincy. So he's clearly like spending a lot of time with Mark Jones, and then a back three of step aside Freddie Stewart, the new Sky King is in town. Max Nagy, um, another 6'4" Englishman who plays at fullback.
Yeah, the best
This
fullback
was
to come out of the East Midlands. That better than Freddie Stewart and me.
this one has pace. Sorry, Freddie. Daniel Kasende, who, may I remind people, has scored tries versus the Scarlets before.
Oh, hello.
Shout out Cheetahs in the Challenge Cup. And then George North on the wing. And then whoever's got their boots on the bench.
We don't. Keelan, there hasn't been an update on as well. He seemed to have just disappeared.
Yeah, it's sort of. It looks like a niggly injury.
Yeah.
He was doing rehab. I know that. I hope he's back because he likes Scarlet's game. I can't think of anyone else. We haven't had an update on Yeston Hopkins. You can probably imagine Luke Scully will be involved on the bench. Reece Henry is a toss-up between Henry and Warren. As much as I love Henry, you probably leaning towards Warren for pure scrum dominance and being the size of a Citroen C4. Probably Tristan Davis will come onto the bench. I'd imagine you see Morgan Morse as next cab off the rank in the back row as well.
Yeah.
Luke Davis or Ruben Kruger will occupy scrum half.
I think they might give Kruger a go.
I think so as well.
He's had a bit of time to acclimatise, a bit of time to learn the calls, and seems a very tidy player. Former South African 20s. I haven't seen a great deal of him, but Luke Davis I think has been solid. But I quite like to have a look at him. Quite like to see how he goes.
And then Scully, and then most likely maybe he puts Luke Morgan onto the bench. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he gave him the week off and just put someone else on there.
Well, it's like Harry Houston's about the only player left in the squad at that point, unless you put both Dan Edwards and Luke Scully on the bench.
That was my other thing because Scully can play fullback.
Yeah. A reminder of Blaine Scully, which still getting. We don't. Why didn't we get a go of Blaine Scully? I don't know. But that's a whole other conversation.
We had our own North American legends.
Yeah.
Bring back Jeff Hassler.
I feel instinctively like this is the thing this Ospreys team is missing is a tier 2 player we all rally around as a local hero.
Yeah, I want Jeff
Hassler. I want
Jeff Hassler running at people. Like we've got Kieran Williams for a 5'10" man running at people.
Oh, imagine a backline with Kieran Williams and Jeff Hassler.
Oh, I can only imagine.
And Yeston Hopkins, who is Q-boyed as well.
And then I want 6'4" SA and Atonga on the other wing.
Yes,
that's all I want.
Well, look, I know we've got limited time, but I listened to the podcast the other week on the way to that Sharks game in London, and you mentioned you wanting obscure players when you mentioned me, and I did put together a 15 on the train back. So
go on. We'll do it.
Okay, we got time.
We've got someone wait. Yeah, we've got time. Don't worry, I'll make them wait. It's fine.
Okay. I want points for whoever remembers these players. Okay, number one, huge underrated player, Alex Jeffries.
Yep, Scarlet's legend.
Later. Matt Dwyer at hooker.
Obviously.
Former
loudmouth.
Well. Was the Army Navy
captain.
Nicky Thomas, tired. I feel like you can do better. There's a theme with Nicky Thomas. He obviously came through under-20s with Nicky Smith, and you're like, oh, it's the Nicky combo. Never mind. Connor McInnery in the second row.
I have no clue.
Irish lock, played about 2, maybe 3 games in that like golden era. So like has 2 Magnus League winners medals or you know, Pro 14 winners medals. Played about 3 games in that time. De Kock Steinkamp.
Yes.
Who signed was apparently great. Spent 2 years injured. Played 1 game off the bench and got injured in that game.
That's like Ben Glynn levels of injury there.
Oh, Ben Glynn. What a man.
What a player. Guy Mercer at 6.
The other Mercer.
Mercer's shit brother. Yeah.
The other Mercer.
Who was Bath captain and they sent him out on loan. Which, I mean, sums the guy up entirely. Lee Beach at 7.
Yes. Oh God, that
So
is a blast from the past.
yeah, really a seven specialist, but like had a few games for the Ospreys. Now this is my favorite, right? Number 8, Ifeami Boladao, who was an utterly terrible number 8, who basically got a professional contract because he was Fijian and
Okay.
was atrocious. If you There's like a highlights reel of him on YouTube, and it includes a clip of him running backwards where they've just like cut in really tight so you can't tell he's going in the wrong direction. He was extremely bad. I think he signed for Leicester and played like 4 games for them afterwards. Really, really bad player. But big fan. Rodri Wells at 9.
Yeah.
Um,
Tom
number
Haverfield
10.
snubbed.
Sorry.
Oh, Tom Haverfield has been snubbed.
Oh, Tom Aberfield doesn't go in the obscure player. He goes in the greatest players of all time. He partners Dan Carter in my all-time 15th.
Harsh on that. Oof.
And also, like, I did think about this. If you like, Tom Smith is probably a member of this team, but he played over 100 games. And that kind of means, can you still be obscure and play 100
Yeah.
games? I don't know. Number 10 is the most difficult position, I think. I went with Luke Scully because I think he's destined to be one the moment he retires, the moment he disappears.
You completely could have chose Di Flanagan.
Di Flanagan, of course. Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, that's a good shout. Because I've had a bit of a career at Cardiff beforehand, then spent time being nowhere at the Ospreys. No, that's a better
Yeah.
shout. Yeah. Di Flanagan comes in at 10. Wings, we have Jay Baker and the other Nicky Thomas.
I actually saw Baker play on the weekend, actually.
Really? He's still
Jay
going?
Baker. Yeah.
Rather against Pontypridd, yeah, he was on the wing.
How'd he get on?
He was okay. Well, it wasn't really a game for him because all the battles were up front.
Okay.
And then I think he got dragged off after about an hour. Yeah, I think he had a couple of touches. He still looks quite big, and you think, oh, he looks about to beat like 1 or 2 defenders. But I think Ponty kind of snuffed him out a little bit. So, yeah.
He might end up playing against the Scarlets on the weekend. The rate we're working for injuries.
Yeah, could be the way it's going.
And yeah, the other Nicky Thomas, who was a goal-kicking winger for Swansea back in the day, who got massively hyped up in the Welsh Prem, then played like 2 games for the Ospreys and didn't really cut it. He was just a winger who was a good goal kicker. And I think it was the time of Lee Halfpenny being the best player in the world. And everyone was like, well, we've got another one. No, we didn't. Stefan Watermeyer at 12, who I always loved and thought should have seen more game time.
Okay.
Like, really signed, had like man of the match on debut against the Dragons, and then basically didn't play again. And was like a big like South African 12 with like really solid hands. Johnny Kotzier at 13, who I don't even remember really.
I went with JJ Endelbrecht at 13.
Oh yeah,
I was there at his debut against Glasgow, which was like a 20-all draw. And Dan
did he get injured in that game?
I think he did. But I think Kotzier might have scored in the Challenge Cup against Poe away. I think he scored like some try. I think the Ospreys were out of European contention. And I think the second half against Poe, we had a centre pairing of Tian Thomas Wheeler and Johnny Kotzier. I think both scored. So
I do remember. Yeah, of course. Yeah. You've also got the Leslie Klim try against Racing.
Yeah, there's that.
2 Leslie Klim tries against Racing.
2,
I was there
yes.
at that game. That was the Dan Evans red card.
And then
who's your fullback?
As well. Fullback Ross Jones.
Yes, Ross Jones. He's my fullback as well.
Yes.
We've got a very similar squad, except I went for Jordan Lay at Loosehead, who kept coming on loan from Bristol.
Yeah.
You could have gone Dan Suter at tight head, or
Georgie player,
or somehow current World Cup player Georgie Gaijon.
Yes. Biggest shoulders in the world.
Rainier Bernardo played 30 times, but is obscure enough to go in.
He's a player I thought about.
Who else did you have? There was a couple. But we have a very, very similar team. You could have had like Dylan Moss at wing, who played one game against who played 1 game against Zebra, and he's now like only known as being Keelan Giles' best mate. So we have a very, and I feel like we should do a bonus pod on just obscure players.
Oh, I'm so
because
down
I feel like it would be brilliant. But we do have to. I am going to welcome in 2 people who are joining us for the last part of the pod. So please welcome the man in the hat, the man with the stats, and the man with the threads that divide everyone's opinion. It is Hugh Griffin and Martin, the community game maestro from the Scarlet Fever podcast. The Scarlet
No
Fever
one
boys.
expects the Scarlet's Inquisition.
Between Hugh and Iestyn, is there anyone left to do other podcasts in Wales? Like, I think the two of you are on every podcast, Welsh rugby podcast that ever exists ever. I think by law. Is this just like, is this a contractual thing?
I think who probably does a bit more podcasting than me, I'd argue.
I don't know.
I just say yes to everything. That's my thing.
He does. He's real weird that way.
Boys, how are we feeling about Sunday? Confident?
Oh, 100%. You know, it's going to be a walkover, nice and easy.
Yeah, can't wait, mate.
Walkover. You glad to see you've doubled the amount of fans that the Scarlets were going to bring on Sunday?
And we're going to make the Liberty twice as full as it normally is as well.
Yeah.
There's going to be six people there.
Wow, yeah. There's going to be the referee, 2 touch judges, the TMO, and that children's choir you always book as well. That'd be nice.
That's what I was about to say.
Loan them out for the
Bring
World Cup.
back the children's choir. They used
They've
to
been on
sit.
World Cup duty.
They used to sit in the corner of the West Stand, right, where pretty much no one sits apart from the Scarlets on away days, and it was like something out of Doctor Who.
They actually went for the Claremont game in Europe, the really big one. Fest. I was in that choir, but I didn't sing for the game at all. And they started to sing. I can't remember what song. It might have been Callan Land or something like that. They started to sing right. Well, there's about 10 minutes to go, and the Ospreys. I think AWJ just made a break in the 22, and I think Wayne Barnes would have given an offside penalty, and Claremont intercepted it. So obviously, I was quite young, so I didn't really know what was going on at the time. But everyone was singing except for me. One of my mates who's now in the Ospreys setup, Rodri Lewis, and it was just everyone else was singing around us, and it was just me and him watching the rugby. And I was like, well, I was here to sing, but I'm here watching the Ospreys beat Claremont in Europe, and then obviously they let it slip in Exeter the following week, which was really upsetting.
I feel like
game.
If there was ever a version of Nevermind the Buzzcocks for rugby, you would be on that for the lineup section. Was were you in the children's death choir?
So at the Georgia Australia game in the World Cup, I was sat behind the haunting children's choir they had for the opening weekend of the World Cup. And about 10 minutes in, they all fell asleep at once. It was really sinister that they'd gone from being this like haunting choir butchering, the Australian anthem, to suddenly they all just like deactivated at once. It was like something from the Hideo Kojima game.
Dropped the strings.
The AI had shut down.
They just like
powered off. Choirs, everyone was talking about how horrible they were, and I was like, you can't sack a children's choir.
No,
but do you know what? Do you know what I didn't twig for ages was obviously it must have been lots of different children's choirs. In my head, it was the same children's choir at every game, and they were getting shipped around France. And then I was like, oh yeah, that can't be possible. That would be a logistical nightmare. But
led by the French version of Fagin from Oliver Twist.
Yeah.
Just shipping these children around France.
Get in the van.
We have some questions for you that we posed earlier on the podcast. The first one, is Tane Plumtree a real person? Or is he an NFT?
Ooh. No, he's a real person.
Yeah, you think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, Hugh?
Oh, yeah.
As our Twitter DMs have proven.
How much do you like sliced bread?
Good question.
Well, I don't think I could live without it, put it that way.
Okay, you couldn't cut bread yourself.
Well, I could.
You'd be making sliced bread then, wouldn't you?
You'd be making sliced bread. You make a very good point. You couldn't just like reach in and just like grab it out, pull it out yourself. That's
just a full-on bread roll with his soup. Yeah.
I think the spirit of sliced bread is it has to come sliced.
Okay.
I think.
I'm glad we're getting into the big
Martin, which powder puff front row are you bringing on Sunday?
Well,
is it Sam Wainwright?
Well, even if it is Sam Wainwright, he's still going to smash that reject. Gareth Thomas, we sent on you away. He's never good enough for us.
Reject. Oh yeah,
That's
who is he?
Who
Who is he sat behind at the? Who is he sat behind at Scarlets? I can't remember Scarlets props. Was it Phil Price?
Well, no, he's a Dragons prop. He is. It was.
Was he a Dragons prop?
He was at Scarlets for a while.
Yeah, he was at Scarlets, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at the Scarlets, but he's a Dragons prop originally.
Oh, right, okay. Who was he sat behind?
Probably someone like Reece Fawcett. He was probably behind.
Oh, yes, the legendary Reece Fawcett, ex-Ospreys hooker as well, ex-Ospreys prop
as well.
Yeah,
Simon Gardner as well.
Simon Gardner. What a player!
Wrong side.
He can go in the niche 15. He can go in the niche 15.
Had that one game when he was like 19 against Leicester where he was okay, and I was like, next big thing.
Have you got Sam Lowsey on the weekend?
No, he's injured. But we are bringing Wales's first choice hooker down to Liberty round. No. Yeah. The one who actually started the big games of the World Cup.
Oh my God, Sean Evans is coming to Liberty.
Yeah, you should be scared of that. You'll actually be taught how to jackal.
Jack Morgan will be taught how to jackal. Yeah, no.
Oh, another one of the rejects. Yeah.
I was saying this earlier. No. This is like a Mandela effect thing. No, Jack Morgan never played for the Scarlets. People just collectively hallucinate and imagine he did. It never happened. There's no proof
that Jack Morgan's good, but he's not Nelson Mandela.
That was it. He was in prison for a while, and that was the Scarlets. And then got out of prison and became president of Australia.
Parker Scarlets is Robin Island.
Like prison to him, having so many good open sides in front of him, and now what's he got? Some old guy that should have retired years ago.
You've got Teddy Leatherbarrow. That's not a real person.
Again, all these not real people are managing to put awesome performances out.
He's not.
It was an awesome performance at the weekend. I thought. What was it like? 57 points shipped.
Oh, it ended 54.
Well, put it this way:
54.
I forget what it's like in those caves over Locher.
We scored as many points against a team that had 4 World Rugby Player of the Year, Team of the Year players in it, as you guys scored against a team that had the lesser-known Rosser brother in it.
The fact that there's a more known Rosser brother is news to me.
There's Jared and Ewan.
They're not real people.
No. Okay, the thing you're missing here though is that 54 is a bigger number than 20. And look, we were both shit at the weekend. Like, I don't know why we're picking battles on these grounds. Like, both teams were objectively shit. And now you go,
who's the less shit is the spirit of Welsh rugby.
Absolutely. This is the less shit derby. Have you gone into the archives to find the 3 wins you have against us?
You mean the 8 wins in the last 11 derbies? You mean?
Well, that is such a specific number. Why can't you just go? We've not lost the last 3 derbies. That's exactly the same vibe.
Nah, you got to go over a period of time. Teams grow over years.
We had Alan Clark managing it.
You've got to be scared coming into this game. I mean, you've only won 3 URC games at home last year. You've only won 1 so far this year, and that was a squeaky one over Zebra. I'd be scared.
And yeah,
we had Glenn Delaney. Like, he doesn't exist.
Glenn Delaney,
Nottingham rugby legend Glenn Delaney.
Ewan Shenton, Ospreys reject.
How can he be a reject if he's never actually played?
He was in the academy.
For us.
Well,
he's on the YouTube channel. He's on the YouTube channel. He was basically part of the furniture, right? It's good. Let's be fair. Let's talk the real things. Referee on debut. It's going to be the Wild West on Sunday.
I was very surprised like that. So I'm a subscriber to the belief that Welsh derbies shouldn't be refereed by Welsh refs, and it being a referee making his refereeing debut against the only real derby in rugby is like, I was surprised. I hope he goes okay. Why do we have to have Holly last week? We could have had Holly for this one. She wouldn't have anything.
All Welsh derbies should be reffed by Jaco Piper because it should be reffed on vibes and nothing else. Because that
never win.
No, the last time Jaco Piper reffed a Welsh derby, we put 50 on you.
Yeah, but how
Is
many
that
did you
what-
You're
let us
betting on
score?
vibes. What vibes comes out of Swansea? Edwin and
Have,
Met.
Better
That's all.
vibes than come out of your lot.
have you ever nilled us though? Have you ever nilled us? Have you got the donut?
No, because that's not in the spirit of the game.
Because that's what really matters.
Rugby values are better than rules. Do I have to get Willow in on this call because he will explain this to us? We would never do that to you. Who would win in the fight in the car
Never
park?
could do
Dwayne
that to
Peel or
us, that's
Toby
why.
Booth?
Toby Boot, come on.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not going to hear otherwise.
But see, Dwayne Peel was a scrum half, so he's used to starting fights and running off.
Yeah. If this is the Harvester car park outside the Liberty, they've both had like some really overpriced lager, and it's Toby Booth versus Dwayne Peel. Who's winning?
Oh,
And
Peel.
it's
Too quick.
too quick.
The
Booth
thing
wouldn't
is,
even know where he was. He'd be on his ass.
the thing is though, like we forget that Toby Booth was like a Cockney electrician before he was a rugby coach, which doesn't sound like great credentials, admittedly, for doing a job. But I think, look, I would back that over a professional rugby player in a fight any day.
Who's
If
not
one of
even
the-
the best nine to come out of Glasgow.
But that is actually hard, being the best nine from the Scarlets is actually there's competition there, whereas rather, all the ones that we don't like, we send your way.
And he's not
That's
exactly
the
from Llanelli either. He's Gwen Drive by. He's Tumble. Nowhere near Llanelli. Miles.
that's all the same, isn't it?
Well, it might be to you a lot, your brothers, your sister, and all that lot. But to us, it's a bit different.
Are you boys heading down for the game, Mark? Are you heading down?
I'm still undecided. I've got it's a toss-up at the minute. I'm coaching under eights, and we've got one team going away to Tonrevel and the other team at home. So if I end up going to Tonrevel, I'm screwed. I'm never going to make it back. So I won't find out until Saturday where I'm going.
And who are you making the travel down?
I think my last trip down west a couple of weeks ago to see the Cardiff game really cleaned me out, so I'm saving up to see if I can make it as far as cap for the next game. So I don't think I'm going to make this one.
That'll be good. We put the jokes aside and we will still continue
I
to
did
rib us.
message what's his name, Anthony Cole Johnson, to see if he'd let me in for free, and he ignored me.
Well, I don't blame him. I'm going to message him now and see if he'll let me in for free, despite the fact I'm already going. No, all jokes aside, it is going to be an interesting weekend. Both teams are, Robbie is of the fact that he's gutted you're not last. Somehow a team worse than you currently.
I just think points difference is all that matters,
the only stat that matters.
Yeah, and the one that is last is the one that even Etzebeth plays for.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Rugby's
pub car
weird.
parks,
Oh, hello. Martin, give us your player to watch from the Scarlets on the weekend.
Ooh, it's always got to be Fafita every single time. But is it going to be he's having a good performance, or is he having a few reds?
So you're choosing the Tongan Morgan Morris. Who's your player to
What's a
watch?
Morgan Morris?
Best eight in the league.
My player to watch would be. I'm trying to come up with something a bit more original. We talked about Leather Baron. I'm going to go my favourite player. I'm going to go Joe Roberts. He's going to show George North what a real 13 plays like.
Yeah, Joe Roberts. Yes, then who's your player to watch for the weekend?
Ooh, I haven't really thought about this. Well, Morgan Morse, go on then. You come off the bench. Yeah, you'll surprise someone.
Morgan Morse come off. He'll score 4 tries in about 8 minutes. And Robbie, who's your player to watch?
Scarlet's player to watch, Jack Morgan. And
Hang on,
no,
if he never
North,
played for the
Gareth
Scarlets,
Thomas.
how can he? What the?
I just
Terrible
having
stuff.
those
So
hallucinations again.
inconsistent.
Sorry. Kieran Williams, because he's back and he is the best player of all time. And I am very excited to see him run into a brick wall and somehow win.
So your choice is Keith from Gleneath, the man who used to drop me on my head at under-14s rugby.
Really?
Yes, very, very. He dropped me on my head once, and I was very angry at him. but unfortunately, he's a lot harder than me, despite being 5'10".
Yeah.
So
Is he the
we
same
might-
size he was then?
You're gonna have
Yeah,
to clarify what you mean by harder.
he's in like he just used to start fights for fun. He is so he's honestly he's like Tasmanian Devil, but from beneath.
I love him so
Um,
much. He's the
my,
greatest.
we're going to have a
my to
battle of
watch.
the one-dimensional 12s called Williams.
Yeah,
I hope not. I want to see a James.
yeah, I think you'll see Eddie James. Johnny Williams is not very good. Um, my player to watch on the weekend will be. I'm going to go James Fender. I
Mm.
just think he's great.
Mm.
He's big. He's gnarly. He's in your face. Another quick roundup of all the rugby happening. The Blues host the Stormers on Friday night at Cardiff Arms Park. I'm sure all four people who are going to watch that are going to enjoy. On Saturday, the Sharks host the Dragons, which will essentially be two, drunk chimpanzees throwing shit at a wall. Um, no, all jokes aside, that is a big opportunity for the Dragons to go out and get a W out of South Africa. Just like Cardiff did, and they haven't mentioned it since. And then, of course, Sunday, the big one, 3 o'clock, Swansea.com Stadium, Ospreys v Scarlets. It is only on Viaplay. So unless you're one of the 8 people who subscribes to Viaplay, yeah, I think 3 of them are in this call, actually.
Hey,
Yeah,
there's some
I
good
gotta
Scandinavian
get the-
films on there.
I got to watch my top 14 somewhere.
Yeah.
true.
No, tell you what, you want to be watching A Royal Affair, the 2012 film starring Mads Mikkelsen. Solid. Alicia Vikander, outstanding in it.
Let's get down to the stadium, support the boys, wear your colours, make some noise. Welsh rugby needs it. Let's all be frank. We need the big crowd. We need the noise. We need the passion. And as much as one of us is going to be gutted next week, it'll be a great
Not us.
great affair. Yeah, not you. You lot are too sad already. You can't get any worse. I've been James. This has been the Ospreys Eyrie. Big thank you to Robbie for giving up his very busy schedule to spend an hour with us.
Thank you for having me.
No, please, anytime. And we will do that niche Ospreys players
Yes.
pod. I think that genuinely will be the best hour of my life. More Johnny Cutsier chat.
Oh, I can't
Um,
wait. I can't wait. Big up some right here, Bernardo.
Right near
Fangirling.
Bernardo. Yeah. And then thank you to the boys from the Scarlet Fever podcast, Hugh and Martin. As much as we didn't enjoy their company, we do appreciate them for giving up their time. We will see you guys next week, where we will hopefully be reviewing a 50-point win against the old enemy. If not, we will be off air for the rest of the season because, quite frankly, I can't fucking face it.
Win-win.
You can catch Hugh and Martin on the Scarlet Fever podcast. Hugh, you're also on the Pirate Rugby podcast, yeah?
And
Yeah,
everything
Pirate
else.
Rugby Pod.
Yeah,
And
basically, if you
most
type in
other places.
rugby podcast, either Hugh or Yester will be on there. You can find Robbie on the Squidge Rugby YouTube channel, and well, if his videos aren't being taken down,
Yeah.
we'll get there one day. You can find everything on the Ospreys Eyrie Twitter account. We will link everyone and everything on there. Thank you all. See you next week.
Scarlets.